Discover the amazing secret to transform your mind, 7 surprising Stoic principles that inspire. Sarah's fingers trembled as she sifted through the last of her father's belongings. The walls of her small house seemed to close in on her. The weight of financial struggles clung like a shroud. She was a nurse, a single mother, and while her children depended on her, her own dreams suffocated beneath the expectations of her late father's legacy. There, amidst the clutter, lay his old, dusty journal. Its cracked spine felt foreign in her hands, and yet she couldn't resist the urge to pry it open. The pages were filled with lessons that seemed far from her weary reality, a world of Stoic thoughts about resilience and control that felt like a distant shore she could never reach. On the surface, the teachings depicted an ideal life. She wanted to live up to her father's image of altruism, yet, the relentless pressure mounted as she juggled late-night shifts and running after her children. Each time she thought of the psychology degree that had once inspired her, a pain constricted around her heart. What could she offer them, if she could not even secure a stable future? When her co-workers mocked her aspirations, punctuated by snide remarks about her overreaching, it sliced through her like a scalpel. Despite the soft smile she wore, inside, doubt gnawed incessantly at her self-worth, whispering she wasn't enough. Her breath quickened as she remembered Mr. Jenkins, the elderly patient who shared his stories. They were simple, yet powerful. Life is full of pain, but we choose how to respond, he said, his voice a gravelly echo of the wisdom that always left her contemplating long after he was gone. Could that be true? Was there a way to rise from the ashes of her grief, living a life that honored her father's legacy without drowning in its expectations? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. She sat on the edge of her bed, the old journal propped open on her knees. Mind racing, the conflicting emotions roiled within her determination to pursue the research project that could change patient care and provide the recognition she'd always wanted. Battled with the fear of failure and the judgment from those around her. What would they think? Each whisper, each critique became a wall that held her back. But as she read about fortitude and reason, a flicker of courage ignited within her. Could she have the audacity to challenge those stereotypes? It felt as if she stood at a precipice, looking down into a swirling abyss of doubt. Just as she felt emboldened, reminders of her father's gaze would surface, his image a haunting reminder of expectations she was never sure she could meet. The thought spiraled, pulling her deeper into the chasm. It was all too much, too heavy. How did one yearn for more while feeling the weight of everything tangible and intangible? As she prepared to give in to that familiar feeling of hopelessness, the door swung open, her children's laughter piercing the suffocating silence. She grabbed the journal tightly, heart racing, and reminded herself of the stakes. The world outside beckoned, but the shadow of uncertainty loomed ever larger, waiting for its moment to strike. In that charged silence, an urgent question echoed through her mind: could she harness the wisdom and learn to stand strong? Would she find the courage to confront more than just her colleagues, but her own crippling fears? The morning sun cut through the curtains, casting long shadows that danced across the floor. The light was a welcome reprieve from the dark thoughts that had haunted Sarah since her father's passing. She breathed deeply, inhaling the scent of fresh coffee brewing in the kitchen, the familiar routine offering her a semblance of comfort. With her children still asleep, the house felt still, allowing her a moment to wrestle with her inner demons free of distraction. Grabbing the journal, she flipped to a section that had caught her eye: the previous night notes about taking control of one's responses to adversity. A line read, "We cannot control what happens to us, but we can control our reactions." She had spent so much energy worrying over what others thought of her ambitions, but what if she shifted that energy toward her own aspirations? Desperation stirred her into action. She had to confront not just her work but also her own fears. As the coffee pot gurgled and sputtered, she began to sketch out ideas for her research project. The blank page before her felt daunting yet invigorating. She could visualize the impact her work could make, transforming patient care and finding a voice within a system that often felt dismissive. Every idea she penned felt like reclaiming a part of herself long forgotten: her passion, her dreams, which had been buried under layers of responsibility and grief. Could this be her opportunity to prove her worth and create a legacy of her own? But as she pushed forward, the nagging thought of dismissal and ridicule from her colleagues seeped into her mind again. What if they're right? What if you're deceiving yourself? The words twisted in her thoughts. The fear of failure bubbled to the surface, a previously familiar sensation reminding her of her fragility. How could she bear the weight of professional defeat, especially when she had children to care for? The permanence of their laughter turned her heart heavy as she flicked her gaze toward the doorway. Stirring from her worries, Sarah decided to face the criticism head-on. She made a plan to speak with Dr. Miller, the head of the department, and present her idea. The thought sent a bolt of dread through her stomach. On one hand, she felt the urge to retreat into the shadows of complacency, while on the other, an insatiable fire to step into the light propelled her forward. This was more than about work. It was about embodying the best version of herself for her children. With each sip of coffee, she envisioned the conversation, mentally rehearsing and refining her pitch. Clarity washed over her. She had studied meticulously, curated insights from countless patients, and had the invaluable experience to offer something significant. What they think doesn't define who I am, she reminded herself, channeling her father's resilience. That ember of belief rekindled her determination. Her children's voices drifted down the hall, urging her to set aside her fears. Inspiration flashed, and with newfound purpose, she grabbed a notebook and began outlining her project proposal. If Mr. Jenkins were here now, she imagined his approving nod, offering affirmation with every stroke of her pen. Just as momentum swelled within her, a sudden thought halted her. The realization that she needed a trusted colleague, a friend who could be her sounding board. But who could she trust? The thought of vulnerability loomed large, threatening to undermine her resolve. As she wrestled with this decision, the sunlight dimmed, clouds veiling the morning light, leaving her in unsettling twilight. Her heart raced again. Was she prepared to risk further disappointment, or was she ready to embrace the possibility of empowerment? The tension in her mind crackled like static electricity. This was the moment that would define her transition. Would she reach out for support or forge ahead alone into the uncertain realm of possibility? The clock chimed, drawing her focus away momentarily. It marked the beginning of a new day, and with it, decisions ripe with impact awaited her. The question lingered: was she ready to face the world beyond her fears? As the clouds drifted away, unveiling the sun's gentle glow once more, Sarah took a deep breath, allowing the warmth to envelop her. The day ahead held promise, yet her chest tightened with the weight of uncertainty. The conversation with Dr. Miller loomed like an unfinished symphony in her mind, its rhythm yet to be determined. She stood, her feet firmly planted on the cool kitchen floor, staring at her reflection in the window. This was not the woman her father would have recognized. She felt fragmented, caught between her responsibilities as a mother and her aspirations as a researcher. Yet, his voice echoed in her memory, urging her to embrace her potential. What would he do? She whispered to herself, the question sparking a flicker of resolve. As the morning moved forward, she decided to tackle the most pressing task, reaching out to a colleague. Stranger feelings crept in, longing for affirmation mixed with a paralyzing fear of judgment. How could she ignore the disinterest she often faced in the sterile confines of their workplace? Sarah clenched her fists, remembering the countless times she had suppressed her own voice. But today felt different. She was not merely seeking support, she was demanding to be heard. After a brief, tumultuous internal debate, she reached for her phone. A familiar name hovered at the top of her contacts: Lisa. Lisa had always been approachable, a steady presence amidst the chaos of their professional environment. Sarah resolved to text her, inviting her for coffee. It was a small step, but one that took her out of isolation. Let us catch up. I could really use a friend's perspective on work ideas. Her fingers hovered above the keyboard, hesitating. What would Lisa think? Would she offer sound advice, or would Sarah's vulnerability expose her weaknesses? The prospect of opening up felt like stripping away armor in a war zone. With a deep breath, she pressed send, sealing a pact with her own growth. The response came almost immediately. Sounds great. When and where? Relief washed over her. They arranged to meet that afternoon, an appointment that felt weighted with anticipation. Time seemed to crawl until the meeting. With each passing minute, doubts flooded her thoughts, warping her excitement into a trepidation that felt almost suffocating. She had chosen to pursue this path, to carve out a space for discussion, yet fear clung like a shadow, whispering doubts. When she finally sat across from Lisa in the small cafe, the scent of espresso invigorating her senses, she felt a glimmer of hope. Her friend greeted her with a warm smile, instantly easing Sarah's tension. After the initial small talk faded, Sarah hesitated again, her heartbeat quickening. How much should she share? Would vulnerability be seen as weakness? Taking another breath, she launched into her pitch. As words flowed, bubbling up from a well of pent-up ideas, she felt a heady rush of empowerment. Lisa listened intently, nodding, her expression shifting from curiosity to admiration. "Sarah, this is brilliant," Lisa said, enthusiasm coloring her tone. "You have to take this to Dr. Miller. I can't believe you doubted yourself for so long." As praise wrapped around her, Sarah felt a sense of validation she hadn't anticipated. It shifted her perspective. Maybe her ambitions weren't just valid but necessary. On the drive home, a surge of adrenaline coursed through her veins as she grasped the steering wheel tightly. She wasn't just going to present her project, she was going to advocate for it passionately. She needed to embody that belief she had reignited. Arriving home, however, the wave of resolve was soon eclipsed by another wave of anxiety. Had her brief success been merely a flicker of progress? Life's relentless demands reared their heads. The children were home, filling the house with the chaotic symphony of their personalities. But beneath the chaos, a quiet fire stirred within her. She had taken the first step, and now there was no turning back. Thoughts of Dr. Miller and the presentation flooded back, now intertwined with the belief from her conversation with Lisa. Yet, as the evening crept forward, one question twisted uncomfortably in her mind: what if she was met with dismissal after all? What if courage led her to disappointment instead of success? The clock chimed again, echoing her own heartbeat, and she realized the path had only just begun. Would she rise to face the next challenge, or retreat into the familiarity of doubt? The moment had arrived. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting an amber glow that filtered through the kitchen window. Sarah leaned against the counter, her heart pounding with the mixture of anticipation and dread. The children's laughter faded into the background as she gripped the edge of the granite surface, navigating the tightrope between her dual roles of mother and aspiring researcher. She felt an urgency clawing at her, demanding a breakthrough. With the conversation with Lisa replayed in her mind, an echoing reminder of the support she had found. "You have to take this to Dr. Miller." That line settled deep within her. Yet the shadows of doubt were quick to follow, gnawing at her composure. Would Dr. Miller truly recognize the merit in her ideas or dismiss them as frivolous? The fear of judgment felt like a physical weight on her shoulders. It was time to confront that head-on. She sunk into a chair at the dining table, taking a moment to gather her thoughts. The environment was chaotic. Her children were bouncing around the living room, a cacophony of energy. In that moment, however, they became her motivation rather than a distraction. Each laugh and shout anchored her resolve. She closed her eyes, picturing the projector screen in Dr. Miller's office, her carefully crafted slides illuminating her vision. It was suddenly incredibly clear: her ideas could matter, not just for her, but for all those who shared the same challenges in their work. After a deep breath, Sarah opened her laptop, the screen casting a blue light in the dim room. The proposal for her research project stared back at her. Words she had once hesitated to put together, but now they felt like a battle cry. With determination fueling her fingers, she began to type. Each sentence that emerged felt like a pledge to herself. As the words flowed, she felt an infusion of strength. This was not just a project, it was part of her identity, part of the legacy she wished to cultivate for her children. The rhythmic tapping of keys faded into the background noise of home life, almost meditative. As she crafted her message, Sarah began to visualize the outcomes: not just success, but the ripples of confidence her work could send through her family. The thought emboldened her. This was about creating a life that reflected her aspirations. By the time her husband returned home, she had rewritten portions of her proposal, tweaking details, and honing her arguments. He entered, noticing the shift in the atmosphere as the air around her vibrated with newfound excitement. "What's new?" he asked, lifting an eyebrow with curiosity. I'm meeting with Dr. Miller tomorrow, she stated with a firm resolve, surprising even herself with the confidence in her voice. His surprise morphed into admiration. That's fantastic, Sarah. You've been waiting for this moment. He placed a hand on her shoulder, and a warm wave of encouragement enveloped her. As they shared dinner, Sarah felt herself breathe easier for the first time that day. The anticipation of her meeting tomorrow had a new flavor to it, an adrenaline-charged anticipation for potential success. Yet, lurking beneath that enthusiasm was a darker thread of fear, a what-if scenario that still clawed at her. What if, despite her preparation and belief, her passion didn't translate to acceptance? That thought unsettled her. Somehow, the notion of failure morphed into a mirror reflecting her fears, the fear of being unheard, of returning to a different version of herself that sidestepped ambition. As her family settled in for the night, the weight of her internal conflict pressed down again. The clock ticked loudly, each second reminding her that the moment for her presentation was approaching rapidly. With every chime, she wrestled internally with a choice: would she step confidently into her dreams, or would she drift back into comfortable silence? As fatigue began to set in, the reality of the next day loomed ahead, and one thought crystallized: tomorrow would not just be about a presentation, it would be a confrontation with her own self-worth. What if, armed with newfound courage, she embraced the fear in the room? What if she found her voice amid the murmurs of doubt? The time had come to face more than just Dr. Miller, it was time to face herself. Determined, Sarah lay awake, recounting her strategies, crafting her approach in her mind. As sleep eluded her, she felt the deep pulse of fear and excitement intertwine. The moment of truth drew near, every tick of the clock underscoring the urgency of the challenge ahead. Would she seize it, or let it slip through her fingers? Tomorrow would bring an answer, and for the first time, Sarah allowed herself to wonder, what would it feel like to stand in her truth? The dawn arrived with a chill that crept through the window, but Sarah felt a fire igniting within her as she slid out of bed. The moment she stood upright, resolve coursed through her veins. Today wasn't just another day, it was a reckoning. She quietly moved about her morning routine, each step deliberate as she fought against the lingering doubts that had once plagued her. She dressed neatly, her attire chosen not just for appearance but as an armor for her emotional battlefield, readying herself to face Dr. Miller. The children, still blissfully unaware of the gravity of her day, surrounded her with innocent chatter. As she poured their breakfast, she felt the weight of her responsibilities both as a mother and an aspiring researcher crushing down once again. An overwhelming desire to keep the two worlds separate flickered momentarily. She could easily retreat into the comfort of motherhood, putting her dreams on hold. But Sarah knew better. She had promised herself she would not shrink back. Finishing breakfast, she tucked her proposal into a sleek folder, the contents emblematic of her dreams. Each page represented countless hours of work, a synthesis of her thoughts and aspirations. With a deep breath, she took a moment to visualize the conference room, an empty table, the fluorescent lights humming above it, and Dr. Miller seated, ready to listen. Closing her eyes briefly, she imagined her voice rising above the noise of doubt, articulating her every ambition, every idea with clarity and conviction. After a hurried goodbye to the children, she stepped outside, the world enveloped in a soft morning light. The drive to campus felt suffused with adrenaline, the engine humming beneath her, almost echoing her own heartbeat. As she pulled into the university parking lot, her gut twisted, a mix of excitement and fear tightened its hold. Insecurity settled in uninvited, whispering venomous doubts into her mind. What if Dr. Miller dismissed her research as trivial? What if her passion didn't resonate? But that panic was met with a growing resolve. For each negative thought that flicked through her mind, she countered it with a mantra she had developed: I am capable. My voice matters. She had earned this opportunity, and she was going to make the most of it, no matter the outcome. As she navigated the halls toward Dr. Miller's office, the ambience shifted. The walls were adorned with accolades of accomplishment, a stark reminder of what success looked like, maybe too stark. Sarah paused before the door, her hand hovering near the knob. What if she was not good enough? The eerie quiet amplified her uncertainties. In that moment, she forced herself to confront the tension head-on. Taking a deep breath, she placed her hand on the doorknob, resolving to channel her fear into energy. She swung the door open, stepping into the room not just as a mother or aspiring researcher, but as a woman ready to claim her space. Dr. Miller looked up, surprise flickering across his features, quickly replaced with a warm yet professional smile. "Sarah. Good to see you. Please, come in." His demeanor was welcoming, instantly easing some of her apprehension. As she began her presentation, she fought through the initial tremor in her voice, focusing on the information rather than her anxiety. With each slide, her confidence grew. Dr. Miller listened intently, nodding at points, scribbling notes that ignited a flicker of hope within her. But just as she began to allow her enthusiasm to swell, he interrupted. "This is ambitious work, Sarah, but I have some concerns." Her heart raced, the weight of his skepticism loomed large. Would this moment echo the dismissals of her past? Or would it lead her closer to the recognition she craved? The air between them thickened with unspoken challenges, and before she could spiral into despair, a resolve crystallized inside her. She would not back down from this confrontation. This was the unfolding of her journey, the moment she had anticipated, and she had every right to defend her ideas. Nobody would silence her today, not Dr. Miller, nor her inner critic. Her voice steadied as she prepared to address his concerns, ready to transform doubt into dialogue, the true hallmark of her growth. But would he engage, or would her moment evaporate into another fear-laden silence? Dr. Miller leaned back in his chair, a thoughtful expression shadowing the warmth of his previous smile. Sarah felt time slowing, the seconds stretching out like taffy. The air hummed with the weight of his words, but something within her shifted. This was her moment to tether her fears and insecurities to a definitive answer. "Concerns?" she echoed, pushing back the apprehension that threatened to rise. "May I know what specifically you have in mind?" Dr. Miller scrutinized her proposal again, his brow furrowing ever so slightly. "Your methodology is ambitious. While innovation is crucial, it can also lead to miscalculations if not adequately tested. Have you prepared a contingency plan?" His question struck like a jolt of electricity. A contingency plan, something she had indeed thought about but hadn't included in her presentation. It was suddenly glaringly obvious. She had been so eager to present her ideas that she hadn't fully anchored them in practicality. The realization stung, but she quickly acknowledged it as an opportunity to demonstrate her adaptability. "I appreciate your concern, Dr. Miller." Her voice was firmer than before. "While my primary focus is to push the boundaries, I have accounted for variables and setbacks. For instance, I have outlined alternative approaches to some of my key hypotheses in the appendix. If we encounter hurdles, we can pivot to those methods to ensure we maintain momentum." His gaze met hers, a flicker of interest surfacing in his eyes. Encouraged, she continued to articulate not just the alternate plans but the underlying philosophy guiding her proposal. It was about resilience, she reminded herself, about tackling challenges rather than avoiding them. In that moment, Sarah was no longer just defending her work, she was introducing a broader vision that integrated her personal values of perseverance and strength. It was both a professional and emotional unveiling, woven into her research approach. "This isn't just research for me. It's about empowering others to embrace challenges. Life is unpredictable, just like our research journey. We must be equipped to adapt." Dr. Miller leaned in, the tension in the room shifting as genuine curiosity gleamed in his eyes. He paced through her arguments, extracting additional layers from various facets of her work, devoting time to those areas that sparked a deeper conversation. The hours of preparation, the nights spent grappling with self-doubt, all began coalescing into a productive dialogue. Something monumental was happening. Rather than feeling the familiar sharp bite of criticism, she sensed a collaborative spirit, a crucible forging her ideas and fortifying her resolve. This was engagement, not dismissal. As they conversed, Sarah felt a profound transition within herself. The insecurities that had shadowed her motivation began to dissipate, replaced by a growing conviction. The boundaries of her professional identity were broadening. She was evolving into a scholar who could thrive under scrutiny, who could pivot and adjust while still remaining true to her ideas. Little by little, her fear transformed into possibility. Yet, just as the conversation deepened, Dr. Miller delicately raised another point, one she hadn't fully anticipated. "Your approach is compelling, but how are you going to fit this within the current framework of your dual roles as a mother and a researcher? Are you prepared for the sacrifices that come with such ambition?" The question hung heavily in the air, ripping open unresolved feelings she had tucked under layers of determination. She had wanted to separate those worlds, keep motherhood unmarred by her professional aspirations. But now that very separation felt like a liability rather than a protective measure. Sarah's heart raced anew. This was a direct confrontation with her core values. How much of herself would she give to succeed? Would her ambition risk fracturing the delicate balance of family life she had fought so hard to maintain? The weight of his question pressed down on her, but there was a flicker of clarity within the turmoil. This was her journey. It was time to re-evaluate how much she was willing to stretch, how to weave together the threads of her roles without the fear of letting one unravel. Sarah straightened her spine, preparing for an honest reflection. I'm realizing that perhaps the real fulfillment can lie in blending these roles rather than segregating them. As she spoke, something raw and unguarded seeped into her words. Would this vulnerable truth be the key to unraveling her latest conflict? The air in the office crackled with a mix of discomfort and curiosity as Sarah continued to unravel her feelings. Her voice, though steady, carried the tension of her internal conflict. I want to model resilience for my children, she asserted, her eyes steady on Dr. Miller, searching for his understanding. By finding ways to weave my roles together, I can show them that pursuing my passions and being present for them aren't mutually exclusive. In fact, they can reinforce each other. Dr. Miller nodded slowly, digesting her words. A contemplative silence enveloped them, amplifying Sarah's growing realization. The path she envisioned was fraught with challenges, but each challenge she faced would form a tapestry of experiences worth sharing with her children. But she had to confront the insecurity that surged in the wake of her revelation. Was she capable of this balancing act? The self-doubt lingered like a persistent fog, despite her newfound clarity. Every sacrifice she'd made for her family seemed to echo louder now, reminding her of the woman she had chosen to become. Dr. Miller, she began cautiously, how do you manage the demands of your work and your family? It was a vulnerable question, but she had come to realize that seeking wisdom wasn't a sign of weakness, it was an act of strength. He leaned back, a hint of nostalgia in his expression. It's a delicate dance, he replied thoughtfully. There is no perfect solution, only choices. I prioritize my values, and I've learned to say no to things that don't align with them. Focusing on what truly matters not just in work, but in family has been essential for my peace of mind. As he spoke, Sarah mentally catalogued his insights, recognizing the weight of each word. There was wisdom and intentionality, in aligning actions with one's values. Dr. Miller was guiding her not just in her research but in a deeper aspect of her life, a mentorship that felt as much about personal growth as professional advancement. Thank you, she said, a light flickering in her chest. This gives me a framework to build upon. Perhaps part of my research can explore these intersections, not just in theory, but in practice, how we integrate our aspirations with our identities as parents. He smiled, the warmth returning to his gaze. That could be a profound angle, Sarah. Consider how your experiences can fuel your research. Personal narratives woven into academic work often resonate deeply. Encouraged, she felt a rush of ideas pouring forth. But another thought emerged, harsher and more pressing. What if I fail, Dr. Miller? What if I can't juggle it all? The fear slipped out before she could package it neatly, and she felt exposed, her vulnerabilities bare. That fear is real, he interjected, his tone serious yet reassuring. Failure is part of growth. But remember, it's not about maintaining an illusion of perfection, it's about learning, adapting, and showing your truth to both your children and the world. They will learn from your resilience, not your perfection. The sharp edges of her doubts began to soften as new insights layered on top of her previous beliefs. It wasn't just about succeeding or failing as a professional and mother, it was about demonstrating a willingness to evolve, to embrace the messiness of both roles. The clarity was exhilarating. But as soon as the thought of progression emerged, doubt crept back yet again. What would her family think? Would they feel neglected if she poured herself into this ambitious undertaking? Is there a way to prepare my family for the changes this may bring? She asked, a mix of urgency and apprehension threading through her voice. While she craved this integration of roles, the fear of disrupting her family's equilibrium gnawed at the edges of her hope. Dr. Miller's eyes held a glimmer of understanding. Communication is your greatest ally. Sharing your aspirations with them can create a supportive environment where ambition is seen as a family journey, not an individual expedition. Sarah nodded, contemplating this notion of shared aspirations, yet uncertainty danced at the edges of her mind. She was wistfully dreaming of a seamless blend of her roles, but the reality could prove far more complex. As they wrapped up their conversation, Sarah felt an odd mix of renewed energy and nagging doubt. Maybe it was foolish to believe that integrating her roles wouldn't disrupt the balance already established. With her thoughts entwined like the winding roads of a long journey ahead, she was left grappling with decisions that were all too real and making promises to herself that were equally daunting. The moment of reckoning was approaching. As she stepped out of Dr. Miller's office, uncertainty mingling with determination, she sensed that soon, she would have to face her family with the truth about her ambitions, her fears, and how they could flourish together in this new chapter of her life. But for now, the pivotal thought lingered in the air: could she truly navigate this complex intertwining of roles without losing herself in the process? As Sarah walked down the corridor, the walls seemed to close in, pulsating with both pressure and possibility. Each step away from Dr. Miller's office felt laden with the weight of commitment and betrayal, a promise to herself to redefine her existence while standing on the precipice of her family's needs. Would they understand? Would they stand beside her? Back at her desk, she discovered a swirl of papers and half-written ideas that seemed to mock her intentions. She peeled her gaze away from the chaotic mess and looked out the window towards the bustling city below. The skyline, illuminated by the late afternoon sun, was a reminder of the countless women who effortlessly juggled careers, ambitions, and families. They seemed invincible, a stark contrast to the self-doubt gnawing at her. She shook her head, trying to dispel unnecessary comparisons. What did it mean for her to carve her own path? The thought forced her to sit back, hand over her mouth, as she reflected on what obstacles lay ahead and how she'd confront them. Her own journey required authenticity, the integrity to decide what success looked like in her life. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of demands. The leaves changed colors outside as autumn crept in, mirroring her internal transformation. Sarah immersed herself in research, exploring the complexity of work-life balance. She interviewed other parents who faced similar dilemmas, collecting stories of resilience that fueled her drive. Each narrative woven into her project reminded her of her purpose: to illuminate the interplay of passion and family life. But then her children began to feel the shift in their mother. Her late nights became a topic of conversation at dinner, their innocent questions cutting through her resolve. "Mom, why are you always busy?" asked her youngest, his eyes full of confusion. For a moment, Sarah felt the world slip from under her feet. Was the pursuit of her goals worth the confusion painted on their faces? Doubt clutched at her heart, tighter than before. Determined to instill values of openness, she initiated family meetings, a new ritual to create space for dialogue. At first, the kids were skeptical. However, as she unveiled her dreams, they began to blossom with curiosity. "So you're going to write a book?" her daughter exclaimed, a flicker of admiration lighting her face. The warmth in that moment felt like home, yet progress came with its own price. Minutes spent buried in research pulled her from spontaneous family adventures. A suffocating tension wrapped around Sarah as her guilt mounted, screaming that she was failing as a mother while trying to pursue her passion. Torn between worlds, she questioned whether her intentions would lead to empowerment or disappointment. One particularly poignant evening, as she sat with her children on the living room floor, a thought struck her amidst their laughter and shared stories. Resilience didn't merely lie in achieving goals, it resided in navigating the complexities of life with love and transparency. This realization began to shift her perception. Her journey wasn't solitary. It could manifest as a family endeavor, where everyone had a stake in each other's dreams. Emboldened by the newfound clarity, she approached her research manuscript and began drafting an outline that included not just her personal story, but also the voices of her children, reflections on how they felt about their mother's ambition. "This could show others the reality of our intertwined lives," she murmured to herself, excitement stirring within. But deep down, another question bubbled beneath the surface: could their involvement blur the lines between support and burden? Would she place undue pressure on them, straining their relationship in the process? As Sarah's resolve strengthened, so did her anxieties. This delicate tapestry she was weaving would require constant adjustments like a garden that needs nurturing and attention. Her vision was growing, but so were the stakes. Determined to face this pivot, Sarah gathered every ounce of courage, ready to forge a new understanding with her children and herself. The path was still rough, yet she could almost see the rewarding horizon on the edge of her dreams, a horizon yet to be navigated with her family by her side. The moment drew near for a transformative family conversation about their intertwined destinies. Was it time for her to confront the complexity of ambition directly with them? Could she articulate her journey in a way that inspired rather than burdened? The answers loomed ahead, just out of reach. Could they embrace this adventure together, a testament to the beauty of balancing aspirations, love, and support? Or would they retreat, leaving her to walk the tightrope of dreams alone? Sarah sat at the dining table, the familiar scent of her children's favorite pasta filling the air, yet her heart felt heavy. The conversation weighed on her mind like a leaden cloak. She had final ideas and inquiries swirling within, but each felt more daunting than the last. Would they recognize her ambition as a journey they could join, or would her dreams amplify their burdens? She fidgeted with the outline of her manuscript, the edges frayed from countless revisions. This was her moment to articulate the intertwined paths she envisioned, but her stomach fluttered with anxiety. What if they didn't understand? What if her transparency led to confusion instead of encouragement? "Mom, what's wrong?" her daughter asked, noticing her distant demeanor. The questioning pierced through her reverie. Sarah took a deep breath. "I've been thinking a lot about my writing and how it might affect all of us. I'm excited, but I want to make sure it doesn't take me away from you." Her daughter tilted her head, intrigued. "Like a book about our family and your job?" "Exactly," Sarah replied, her voice steadying. But a pang of doubt laced her words. "I'd love to include your thoughts too. I want our stories to be part of it." The children exchanged glances, the initial spark of interest visibly flickering with hesitation. "Are we allowed to say whatever we want?" her son asked, the curiosity evident in his wide eyes. In that moment, uncertainty buried under her initial excitement scratched at the surface again. "Yes, but I want to make sure you feel comfortable. You can tell me honestly what you think." As they sat in a charged silence, Sarah pondered the duality of her ambition. How could she invite them into her dream without placing pressure on them, thus altering the delicate balance of their family dynamic? Finally, her daughter murmured, "But what if we don't have time? You already work so much." Sarah felt the weight of those words not just as a mother concerned for her case, but as a woman trying to break the mold of expectations. Each additional obligation felt like chains tightening around her, restricting her spirit. "You're right," Sarah conceded, reassessing the format of her project. "Maybe we can do this in smaller moments together, like when we're cooking or having fun?" A silence filled the room, but this time it was thoughtful, not daunting. An idea gradually unfurled in Sarah's mind. The narrative could evolve into a live account of their family journey, uncovered through shared experiences. She envisioned the warm, enlightening chaos of daily life as the backdrop for her research, where each laugh and struggle could feed into the larger narrative. Gradually, her children leaned closer, a force drawn together by their curiosity and family bond. "Can we film it too?" Her daughter's enthusiasm lit a flicker of hope within Sarah. "Yeah, what if we made videos?" Her son chimed in, excitement gleaming in his gaze. The proposal sent a rush of inspiration through Sarah. Here they were, crafting a family project, revealing individual insights and immersing in each other's struggles. This collaboration could allow both her ambitions and their roots to thrive. "What do you say we begin filming our first little video this weekend?" she suggested, a blend of apprehension and thrill coursing through her. "Yes!" they exclaimed in unison, the joy illuminating their faces. Suddenly, the uncertainty dissipated, replaced with a collective thrill of engaging in this new venture, but along with the exhilaration, a whisper of doubt lingered. Could she sustain this focus alongside her research? Would she be able to nurture both the manuscript and this unexpected creative project without losing her sanity? As she gathered her children into an embrace, the reality of her commitment crystallized. This was a new chapter not just of her ambition but of their togetherness, a growing testament to their shared journeys. The room swirled with laughter, but within the laughter, unresolved questions loomed like shadows. Sarah realized that with every step she took forward, new challenges would surface to realize her dreams without compromising their childhood. With a heart full of possibility and new anxieties awakening, Sarah understood she was on the brink of something profound. But just how far would this venture spread her? The weekend approached quickly, and not only would she need to confront her insecurities, but her family would also reveal the unforeseen truths of honesty and ambition. Would they thrive in this collaborative space, or did the push toward authenticity risk exposing deeper fissures in their shared aspirations? The answers were yet to come. The days blurred together, each moment woven with the excitement of possibility yet tinged with the anxiety of balancing her ambitions with motherhood. As the weekend dawned, Sarah woke early, her heart racing with a mix of anticipation and trepidation. Today would mark the launch of their family project, an endeavor that not only encapsulated her professional aspirations but also promised to showcase the intimate dynamics of their life. Gathering her children around the breakfast table, the aroma of pancakes filled the air, awakening their spirited energy. "Today's the big day," she announced, excitement bubbling in her voice. Their faces lit up, a contagious eagerness sparking within the room. They exchanged nervous glances, aware that this adventure held the potential for growth beyond mere enjoyment. Each laugh shared today could fuel her research and reinforce her legacy as a mother aiming to balance career and family. "Can we do a little practice before we start?" her daughter asked, looking sheepish yet hopeful. Sarah's heart swelled as she realized how freely they were embracing this new role. "Absolutely. Let us film a mock segment right after breakfast," she replied. They devoured their food, their conversations intertwining with jokes and laughter that lent a lightness to the unease lingering beneath the surface. Once they finished, Sarah set up the camera in the designated corner of their living room, once an ordinary space transformed into a stage for expressing their authentic selves. She adjusted the lens, her heart pounding. "Are we ready?" she asked, a hint of nervous energy creeping into her voice. Both children nodded eagerly, their eyes sparkling with excitement. The first take was a cacophony of playful gestures and missteps. It was raw and beautifully unrefined. Sarah witnessed her daughter shifting between her enthusiastic bursts and stages of shyness, while her son confidently led with charming anecdotes. The joy echoed in the room, creating an atmosphere that dissolved the pressure she had felt leading up to this moment. "Cut. We're doing great," Sarah declared after the first segment, but internally, she felt a nagging voice that questioned if she could maintain this balance long term. Would their novelty wear off? Would she falter under the dual pressures of guiding her children and nurturing her goals? Yet as they continued recording, the rhythm of their collaboration, a harmonious blend of voices, became the very embodiment of what Sarah intended to convey through her research. Each heartfelt moment captured on camera became fuel for her manuscript, intertwining personal narratives with professional inquiries. Conversations flowed more freely than she had anticipated, highlighting not just her growth but their shared learning experience. This was proof that ambition didn't have to divert attention away from the family, it could magnify inclusivity. Later that afternoon, finishing their filming, her children plopped on the sofa, laughter still echoing in the room. It was a joyous mess, filled with moments of profound vulnerability. In that blissful chaos, she realized that their shared journey wasn't just about her, it was about building a legacy of resilience and empowerment together. That evening, once her children were tucked into bed, Sarah sat in the quiet of her living room, reviewing the footage from the day. The complex layers of her life were unfolding, and each recorded moment rejuvenated her spirit. The glimmers of joy and empowerment illuminated the shadows that encapsulated her previous doubts. As she drafted her manuscript that night, a new chapter crystallized. It was not merely about her pursuit of research, but an evolving narrative exploring the complexities of motherhood fused with professional ambition. This transformative experience forged connections with her children she had longed for, each filmed moment turning an abstract aspiration into a tangible reality. The weekend's triumph paved a road of clarity. Could this articulated journey resonate with others? With every keystroke, she embraced her newfound knowledge that authenticity lay not in perfection but in the messy yet enriching intersections of their lives. Her manuscript painted a mosaic of their journey, reflecting her struggles to find balance. Reflecting on her development, Sarah found renewed confidence blossoming in her heart. She had created not only a platform for herself but a collaborative space fostering understanding and love. No longer was she merely a nurse and a mother, she emerged as an advocate for navigating ambition while remaining present for her family. In the days that followed, she recalled the challenge presented by Dr. Miller. Her original fears of judgment transformed into validation of her evolving identity. The manuscript wasn't a burden but a testament to her growth, a guide illuminating the importance of embracing vulnerability and resilience. Then, the day arrived for her formal presentation of her evolving project. It was time to approach Dr. Miller again, and this time, she did so with the unwavering support of her children behind her, the real heroes of her story. As she stood outside his office, a surge of empowerment coursed through her. She had conquered so many fears and transformed her dreams into actionable paths. Now was the moment for validation through recognition. She knocked on the door, uncertainty melting away into solid confidence. Dr. Miller welcomed her in, his gaze warm and inviting. "Good to see you again, Sarah. How has your project been progressing?" he inquired, the curious twinkle in his eyes not lost on her. With a steady voice, she unveiled her integrated framework, the narrative that evolved through personal moments and professional insights, weaving family dynamics with her ambitions. She spoke passionately, demonstrating her conviction and commitment. The weight of expectation shifted into the exhilarating embrace of self-affirmation. As she spoke, she recognized the profound growth she had undergone in this journey. It was no longer about merely seeking acceptance, she was proving her capable voice as an emerging researcher and dedicated mother. Dr. Miller's focused attention revealed a genuine interest, each nod affirming her path and its significance. By the end of the presentation, Sarah sat poised with a sense of triumph. "Your approach is innovative," Dr. Miller confirmed. "This could resonate deeply with many. You've succeeded in finding a powerful intersection between your professional and personal lives. This will encourage others struggling to balance their responsibilities." As she left his office, a radiant smile broke across her face. Sarah had achieved more than recognition, she had conquered the inner conflicts that once felt insurmountable. The journey ahead was clear. This effort was not just about her work, but the shared dialogues, the interconnected growth of family embedded in professional aspirations. Today marked the culmination of her transformation, a solid confidence in her voice and a commitment to nurturing her dreams alongside her family. She had built a meaningful legacy, embodying the strength and resilience that flourished through her work. A voice echoed in her heart. She was not merely a mother or a nurse, she was an advocate of balance, and her story was just beginning. Now, it's your turn to act. You need to subscribe now to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that transform lives. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, because it makes a tremendous difference and supports the growth of our community. Comment below with your reactions and theories about this powerful journey. And most importantly, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to show your support. These stories inspire countless others to overcome their challenges.